I think it's thoroughly appropriate in this next that we're here at SFS-Q to talk about this next, to have a conversation about interreligious dialogue with Georgetown University in Qatar. It's thoroughly appropriate that we're here, especially with the fantastic people we have today. We have Imam Yahya Hendi, who was the first Muslim chaplain. He's first full-time Muslim chaplain at American University. He's the Muslim chaplain at GU. He's also the president of Clergy Beyond Borders, and he's a member in the Islamic Jurisprudence Council. He has a thorough background in comparative religions. Wow, that was weird. We also have Father Tom Michel, who is over here right now. He teaches classes on Muslim-Christian relations. He actually worked in the Vatican with the Office of Muslim Relations, and he actually took his vows in Indonesia, studied Arabic in Egypt and Lebanon, and got his doctorate in Islamic thought from the University of Chicago. So we are blessed to have people who have knowledge of not only their own, but other religions as well. So I don't want to talk anymore. I want them to introduce themselves and tell you a little more about themselves. And then we really want to open this up to conversation. Please, any questions you have, we really want to have some thought-provoking conversations here today. The only other thing I'll say is that we have prayer right after this. We encourage all of you to attend. We will guide you, and then you can go right to lunch from prayer. It's a quick walk. So without further ado, Imam, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Obviously, you're tired. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great, you know. In America, I say I was trained to preach by a Baptist minister from Alabama. Americans know exactly what that means. He told me back in 1992 that the secret of public speaking is that once you take on the microphone, never ever give up on it. Just keep talking, brother. You got it. Well, I'm a Muslim in a Catholic university trained by a Baptist minister, so God help us. Well, in the Arabic tradition, you have this character called Juha. And so Juha once goes into a mosque to speak. He asked a question to the audience, do you know what I was going to talk about? And they said, of course not. He said, why bother? And he left. They went out, please come back, we really need to listen to you and learn from you. Okay, well, let's go. He came back and said, do you know what I'm going to talk about? They said, yes, of course. He said, if you know, why should I bother? And left. Now, they really needed to hear him. They had a trick on him. They brought him back and he said, do you know what I was going to speak about? 50% said yes. And 50% said no. He said, very simple. Those who know, tell those who don't know, and left. So, guys, some of you know, some of you don't know, so tell each other we can leave. Huh, Father? Well, we'll try not to do that today. My friends, interreligious dialogue, or interfaith dialogue, as it is called sometimes. Christianity and Islam, in this case. Are we meant to be enemies? Are we meant to be friends? And what is the future hiding for us? I dare to say that this is the most important chapter in human history. And either we make it or break it. We no longer fight through conventional wars, where a soldier stands next to a soldier or against a soldier. Now, with one button, you can eliminate millions of people. And that should not be an option. So how can we come together as, in this case, Christians and Muslims, and deal with the real issues that we're all facing? I would like to start by saying, I do not like to call this interfaith dialogue. I like to call it interreligious dialogue. Because I really believe that we don't have two different faiths that need to be in dialogue. I believe we have two different religions that need to be in dialogue. Because I really believe that the faith of Islam is that of a Christianity. At the end of the day, we both believe in the one God, the God of us all. And we try to translate that faith through action. So these faiths or faith does not need to be in dialogue because it's already in dialogue with itself. But that faith was translated in different ways through cultural practices in the last 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 1,400 years. Those cultures is what needs to be in dialogue. Or the understandings or the different interpretations of faith that need to be in dialogue. At the end of the day, it's one faith, but different religions. And I think we need to keep that in mind. Number two, we need to go beyond I love you, you love me, we're all about peace. And jump into the real hot issues that we are all facing. Extremism, one of them. Religious extremism in the name of Christianity, religious extremism in the name of Islam. Religious extremism that is claiming thousands of lives every year. Religious extremism that is going to bed with politics, politicizing religion, or using politics for religious specific agendas. That is what we need to tackle. We need to transform dialogue to diapractice. That's my third point. Dialogue to diapractice. Dialogue is when ideas come together in conversation. And we need to go beyond talking about whether God is this or that way, going beyond our interest in the concept of salvation, our interest in life after death, and the concept of sin, and to practice that dialogue in the way we live with one another. We can talk about the definition of God in the classroom or even in the mosque or the church. But how can we practice that dialogue, especially in the field of social justice? How can we come together and dialogue together, not by talking about God, but by living God in the way we interact with one another? At Georgetown University main campus, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox, Shia and Sunnis, every Tuesday go to a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C., and together prepare sandwiches for the poor and for the homeless. That is what I call diapractice, not only dialogue. But as they do that, they learn about each other. They learn about each other. How can we dialogue with one another in the fight against HIV virus in Africa? Or how can we work together to promote better human values in the field, in the Middle East, in America, and in Europe? For me, this is an important challenge for both of us. I believe we are up against fear, and we are up against ignorance. By that I mean, as Imam Ali in the Muslim tradition says, you fear that which you do not know. How many Muslims know Christianity from within? How many Muslims have picked up the Bible to read from the Gospel of Luke or John or Matthew? How many Muslims have bothered going into a church, maybe not to pray, or maybe even to pray, but sit down and listen to a priest or a pastor telling them what the Christianity or religion means to them? How many Christians have engaged Islam? How many Christians have studied Islam from within, not from without? As I say in America, not from Fox News. No offense to Fox News. But actually going to mosques to sit down and learn about Islam. Just last Sunday, I was invited to speak at a Catholic church in West Virginia. And my Christian friends were so shocked to know that Muhammad, the name, is mentioned in the Quran only 5 times, while there are 168 references to Jesus in the Quran, many more than Muhammad. Muslims are surprised to know that the name Muhammad is only mentioned 5 times. We're surprised to know that Mary is mentioned in the Bible 17 times, in the Quran 34 times, twice as much. That there are 5 chapters named after things related to Jesus and Christianity in the Quran. That chapter 19 is named after Mary, the Virgin Mother, very important figure in the Catholic Church. They were completely shocked to believe that for Islam, Al-Masih, the Messiah, is Jesus Christ, the Son of Mary. Wow, really? So you believe that he's coming back? Yes, we believe that Jesus is coming back. So Christians are always shocked to know that about Islam. So whom to blame? Should I blame Christians or Muslims? Have Muslims opened up their doors to Christians to come in and learn and be comfortable in that zone? And have Christians opened their seminaries and doors for Muslims to come in and be comfortable learning about the Christianity, not afraid of being converted because I'm not saved if I don't convert? Recently, we had a panel discussion at Georgetown University called The Saved, the Doomed, and the Chosen. And it was a quite thought-provoking, wonderful discourse of who is saved and does that terminology really mean something? And if it does, what does it mean? Is it helping bring us together? My friends, speaking in the Middle East about this issue is rather emotional for me because I am really afraid and worried about the future of Christianity in this region. As a Muslim, I'm worried. As an Imam, I am worried. As someone who was born and grew up in Palestine, I am worried. And I'm worried not because I think Islam is against Christianity. It is not. Never was, inshallah, never will. But take Iraq as an example, the percentage of Christians who used to be in Iraq and now left to America and to Europe. What is the future of Christianity in Iraq? Palestine. 27% of Palestinians used to be Christians. Now less than 1.5%. The birthplace of Jesus is empty of Christianity. How can that happen? Syria. 3 days ago, 12 nuns were kidnapped, and still we don't know where they are. Orthodox patriarchs kidnapped, and we don't know where they are. How do Christians feel in the midst of the challenges of the Arab Spring? And what can we do together, in this case as Muslims, to tell our Christian sisters and brothers, I do not want a Muslim Middle East. I want an Arab Middle East where all religions feel included, where Christians and Muslims in this case will be equal partners around the table, where no Christian is told you need to leave or you have to leave because Islam does not accommodate you. To conclude my introductory remarks, I would like to say that for me, Islam stands on 3 principles, and they can guide the dialogue between Christianity and Islam. Number 1, politics of justice. Number 2, economics of equity. And number 3, covenant of community. We can never be true to God or to our religions as Christians or as Muslims if we do not practice a politics of justice, justice for all. And if we do not promote economics of equity for all, the Christian and the Muslim and the Jew, the man and the woman, those who may profess faith and those who may not believe in religion, economics of equity and covenant of community. We can never be true in our covenant with God that we read about in the Bible or in the Quran if we cannot be true in our human covenant with our fellow citizens. At the end of the day, we are all in this together. What hurts Christians is supposed to hurt Muslims. What hurts Muslims is supposed to hurt Christians. And when a church is burned in Islamabad, Pakistan, it should not be the Christians raging and angry about it. It should be the Muslims. And when a mosque is vandalized in Europe, it should not be the Muslims showing rage and anger. It should be the Christians. In other words, I care for you, you care for me, because we are all in this together. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Well, last Tuesday, we finished our last class of the semester here in Doha. The course I'm teaching is Muslim-Christian Relations. Now, this is interesting for me because last semester, I was teaching the same course, Muslim-Christian Relations, on the DC campus. One difference, though, was there, most of the students were Christian and only 2 of the students were Muslim. Whereas here, for the same course, of my 25 students, 20 are Muslim and only 2 are Christian and 3 are something else. And so it's really interesting for me to see the dynamic, you know, because the content of the course is pretty much the same. You know, we study the teachings of the church. We study the teachings of the Muslim leaders, the new initiatives like the Common Word Initiative and the Mecca Appeal. And then we try to look at the initiatives that each of the groups have started up in order to promote peace or whatever, and we look at the various projects that they're doing together in various parts of the world. Well, this Tuesday, I concluded the semester with something that I really enjoyed doing, and that was going through, studying with them what Pope Francis said about Islam in his latest apostolic exhortation, which is like an encyclical. But he's got 2 long paragraphs about how we as Christians should be relating with Muslims. And he makes 5, I think, really interesting points, and points that should give us all a lot of thought. First of all, he starts out saying that Muslims hold the faith of Abraham and together with us worship the one God. Now, we can find the roots for this back in the Second Vatican Council teaching, but I think one thing that it ought to do is put an end to this idea that somehow Muslims have another God, some other God. I remember in a couple of the Islam bashing books that have come out recently, they're saying that Allah is the moon god of ancient Arabia. Well, this is not for us, I think, as Christians, something that we can really propose. We are trying to worship and serve the same God. And this, as Pope John Paul II said to us many years ago, should be the firmest basis for the respect and esteem we have for each other. His second point is, he says, it's really admirable, which means we should admire Muslims, to see how Muslims, young and old, men and women, make time for daily prayer. And he says, good Muslims have a deep conviction that their life in its entirety is from God and for God. I think in his words, he's really showing a genuine esteem for Islam, which we were Nostra Aetate, back at the time of the Second Vatican Council, we were said to have. Esteem, which means going beyond tolerance, going beyond even respect. It means seeing what's good in the other and admiring that. His third point that he takes up in this was only a week ago, you know, the 27th of November that he put this out. He said, training is essential for all of us. We all really need to know more about Islam. We need to know more about the teaching of our own faith, whether it's Islam or Christianity. And he gives 4 reasons. He said, in order to be more solidly grounded in our own identity, to know who we are. Secondly, to acknowledge the values of others. So we have to study, we have to learn, so that we know what the values of the others are and can acknowledge them. Thirdly, we should learn more in order to appreciate the concerns that underlie their demands. When they ask for something, why are they asking? Why is this important to them? To know that, we have to learn some more, he says. And the fourth reason, he says, to shed light on shared beliefs. There is so much, think of our world where so many people have really kind of lost interest in religion. They don't deny religion so much as just say, who needs it? I can lead my life without it. Well, we Muslims and Christians believe that this whole universe is coming from a loving creator who's destined us for eternal happiness with God. We together are called to really profess something important that our society needs. Well, I think this is what the Pope is driving at when he says we have to learn to shed light on shared beliefs. His fourth point is, this gets back to something that Imam Hendi was adverting to. He says, the Pope says, we should embrace with affection and respect the Muslim immigrants to our countries in the same way that we hope and ask to be received and respected in Muslim majority countries. Now, he's not calling for some sort of quid pro quo, we'll do this for you if you do this for us. No, he's saying we Christians who live in Christian majority countries should welcome Muslim immigrants because our faith calls us to do this, just as Muslims' faith calls on them to treat the minorities, whether Christian or other among them, with respect and justice. And so then he comes to his fifth point, and he says, what do we do when we hear the reports of violence or fundamentalism or intolerance? How should we react? He says, the respect that we have for true Muslims should make us avoid hateful generalizations. Say Islam is xenophobic, Islam can't live with others. No, he says we shouldn't do that. He says we should remember always that authentic Islam and a proper reading of the Quran are opposed to all forms of violence. So I think he's really trying to push us to get to know each other better, to understand each other's faith better. I just want to close with my own personal comment. For the last 40 years, I went to Indonesia. I'm an American, but I went to Indonesia in 1969. And my bishop sent me to teach English in a teacher's college we had there. And I joined the Jesuits in Indonesia. And shortly thereafter, they sent me to study Islamic studies. You heard in the introduction. I studied in Chicago. And since then, I've spent pretty much about half my time teaching Islamic studies in Christian institutions and teaching Christian theology in Muslim institutions. And I can tell you, after 40 years, this has really been a grace for me. Living among good Muslims has been something that God has really done to make me, I think, a better Christian, a better priest, and a better human. And I think this is the way that God's grace works. When we, good Christians, good Muslims, others, really interact with each other, God's own Spirit is active in all of us to make us better in our own faith. Thank you.